Fam, this Mind the Mic podcast is proudly brought to you by Manscaped. Before we get into this episode, I want to give you the opportunity to check out manscaped.com and use our promo code Mind the Mic. That's one word, Mind the Mic, for 20% off plus free shipping across the entire website. That's it. Manscaped.com, code Mind the Mic for 20% off plus free shipping across everything on the website, where you can get cool things just like this. The Lawnmower 5.0. Look, it's even got a light, and you can trim up all them unnecessary hairs, get rid of them. It's actually made for the downstairs, but you can use it for both if you want. They also have beard trimmers, especially for the beard. But this one here is actually made for the downstairs. So get amongst it, get rid of all them loose hairs hanging around down there. And once you've done that, make sure you clean up that nose too. So we got the Weed Whacker 2.0 for the nose. The Weed Whacker 2.0 is for the nose and the ears. We all get annoyed by those hairs, don't we? And we got the crop soother. So once you finish that undercarriage, come get some of this crop soother in your life. What's crop soother? It's an aftershave for the down there. But I've done it. I've tried it. And it doesn't sting like your dad's aftershave. So you're good to go. And if you want to keep it smelling nice, we got the crop preserver. Deodorant for the balls. That's anti-chafing. Not to mention these are waterproof, fam. So if you're like, yeah, but I like those manual ones because I can use them in the shower. Well, never fear. Manscaped is here. Go hard in the shower. It's waterproof, fam. Good present for your dad, for your brother, your boyfriend, your husband. Well, brothers, treat yourself. Go get you some Manscaped in your life. Use promo code Mind the Mic for 20% off plus free shipping across everything on the website. Enjoy the episode. Make sure you subscribe and get some Manscaped in your life. Mind the Mic. Welcome back to another Mind the Mic podcast. I'm your host, Shubz, here with a very special guest that's actually family to me. So this is pretty cool to have her on the podcast. She's a creative, a swimwear designer. She reckons an imposter, but I believe that's just part of the mind, you know. It's just part of the mind when you're new to something, but you're blessed with the skills. I'm sure we'll get through that. But Brodie George, founder of, I just fucked up the name already.
Jalayimia Swim.
Yeah, Jalayimia Swim. That's it. Yeah, that one. G. Yeah, yeah. What's goody, Brodie? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, obviously need some coffee too, like you, eh?
I know.
Sorry, the brain doesn't even drink coffee, but maybe I should. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's good to have you on. I guess for anybody that doesn't know who you are or what you do outside of what I just said, and that was a terrible introduction. Can you give us a bit of a synopsis on yourself?
Yeah, so at the moment, I would say I'm a swimwear designer. 2 years ago, I launched a brand called Jalayimia Swim, and out of probably all of my business ventures, this has been the most successful. So I'm an artist, and then I've turned all of that art into a business somehow. So Jalayimia Swim is my swimwear brand. I've had Brow Mania, which was an eyebrow business, which I had to close, but I'm sure we'll talk about that at some stage. I had to close that because of COVID, and that's why Jalayimia Swim started. I've got Giddy Giddy, which is a natural deodorant line as well, and all of that stems from my art, which is from my Aboriginal side. So yeah, just a creative, I suppose.
Yeah, just the creative, exactly.
Yeah.
Just the creative. It's crazy that obviously we'll get into it later, but the COVID obviously made you have to, pivot out of what you were doing, and then out of that comes this Jalayimia Swim. How cool!
And you know what? When I had the salon, I loved having the salon. Like, I really felt fulfilled having that, and I really enjoyed having the salon. And I didn't want to close it. Like, part of me, even now, still, like, I just did my eyebrows. That's why they're really dark. But part of me, when I do it, thinks, I should still, like, try and open another salon, Like, I want to do too many things at once. Okay. It was just kind of, I was forced into closing it. One, because of lockdowns, and two, Dylan, he got a more high-level job, and he, was required more at work. So I was like, well, I obviously need to be at home more for the kids. And
Dylan is your husband, not your brother.
Dylan is my husband.
Yes, Dylan is your husband. Okay.
Yeah. So I needed something to do at home. And I thought, why not do it now, you know? And yeah, it's been amazing how popular it's been.
Yeah, that's really. So the name, where does the name originate from?
So Jalayimia is actually my Aboriginal name. So my mum is Aboriginal and my dad is Irish, but I grew up with my Aboriginal side more. So when people sort of ask me, you know, what are you? I will say Aboriginal first because that's more what I know.
Yeah.
And Jalayimia is, my Aboriginal name. So my Jaja, who is my grandmother, she only ever called me Jalayimia. So it's kind of nice to carry that legacy on for her, you know?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So
Yeah.
she's not here anymore?
Nah,
Or...
she passed away when I was 16.
Okay, but you had a quite close relationship, you and her?
Yeah, we were close. I did a cultural awareness session last week, and we were talking about like the roles that women play in Aboriginal families. And we're very like my Walmajeri side, which is my grandmother's side, are very like it's a matriarchal sort of thing, you know. So we follow that, and I'm the second eldest granddaughter. So when Jaja passed away, it was actually me and my oldest sister, like cousin sister, that had to dress her. So it's all, you know, very close, and it was nice to do that for her. And I read her eulogy out at her funeral and stuff. So I've got really nice memories of her too, you know.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Yeah.
What was the thing you said? Your something side? Is that a tribe? Is that your like grandmother's
So
tribe?
my language group, my two Aboriginal language groups are Walmajeri Guniandi, but because we follow our matriarchal line, I more say that I follow my Walmajeri side.
Can we get that like a little bit slower for the people, for like the slow brains like mine today? What was that? The walla what?
So Walmajeri, which is like it's spelled like WALMAJARRI. And we're like yous, you know, like how you roll your R's kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then
cool.
Guniandi is a bit easier to pronounce.
So where do they come from? Like, where are those people from? Like, what's their territories? I don't know.
Fitzroy Crossing, so central Kimberley, so top of WA.
Oh, okay. Oh, both of them come from that area.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
one is from the desert, which is the Walmajeri side, and one is from like near the river, which is the Guniandi side.
Okay. So any of your family like part of that stolen stuff? Like
my mum,
grandmother? Oh, your mum was.
Yeah, my mum.
Oh.
So mum, well, she is and she isn't. It's a bit sort of, it's up for debate. So when mum was 7, she was sent to boarding school. And then once she was at boarding school, the government was like sending letters to Jaja, my grandmother, and she couldn't read. Like she couldn't read English, you know what I mean? Like she didn't know what the letters meant. She just getting these pieces of paper and stuff. So mum ended up getting lost in the system, and she didn't reconnect with her Aboriginal side until her 20s. Okay. So
and are you around by then or?
No. So when she fell pregnant with me, that's when she sort of decided that she wanted to go back home, and she wanted us kids to know where we're from, and, you know, she wanted us to grow up that way. So, yeah, when mum fell pregnant with me is when she moved back up there and started, you know, reconnecting.
Oh, solid. But
yeah,
so I get what you mean. So sort of not, but like.
Yeah, she is and she isn't, if that makes sense, you know, because of the way it all turned out. But there's stories about, you know, how she sort of was and wasn't, and it's all, like I said, up for debate, you know.
Yeah, so she sort of wasn't, but she wasn't like, didn't come to the house and take her from there or anything like that.
Her oldest sister has memories of the day that mum left for boarding school.
Oh,
and apparently it was quite traumatic. Like mum was crying, my auntie was crying, and, you know, like she didn't really want to go. So that's what I mean when it's up for debate. You know, no one kind of knows whether it was or not. But mum's got all the papers, you know, like the same way a lot of the stolen generation kids had those. Mum's got all those papers, and like the way the government talks about Aboriginal people, you know, like it's pretty derogatory, and
probably a byproduct of it in a way. You know what I mean? Like
And look, I'm really fortunate, and so is mum. Like there's a lot of Aboriginal people that had really, really bad experiences being stolen. But mum was really fortunate to end up with a really, really nice family. And so my nana and poppy, who adopted mum, are a really lovely family. You know, they consider us part of their family. They're still our family, and we have a lot to do with them. So I think I'm lucky in a way that I've got the best of both worlds, like the black and the white, you know, like I've got a lot of knowledge on my Aboriginal culture, but then I'm also got a lot of knowledge on the Western side of things, and I understand all that. So it helps me, you know.
How was that growing up? Obviously, because you're not the darkest, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How was that growing up like that? But being also proud to be Aboriginal and like, you know, I guess relating more to that side or understanding that side more.
Yeah, it wasn't such a big deal when we were in Fitzroy. I think because the town like is so small. Probably same with Māori communities. Everyone knows everyone, you know.
Yeah.
So I wasn't looked at for my skin color when we were back in Fitzroy. I was just Brodie, and everyone knew where I fit, who I belonged to. You know, it wasn't until we sort of moved down here to Perth that people sort of started like questioning my identity and, you know, sort of questioning, like on my TikTok, I always get people like, oh, you're one fucking 32nd Aboriginal, you know, like all these, they go into that shit. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me now. It used to bother me when I was a teenager, but it doesn't bother me now because I'm staunch in, you know, in my culture.
You know who you are.
Yeah, I don't care, you know. So yeah, it wasn't sort of until we moved down here, sort of those teenage years, maybe early 20s, that it bothered me a little bit that I was so fair. But now I'm just like, whatever, think whatever you want. I don't care, you know.
It is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And because I more identify with the Aboriginal side, and I know I'm knowledged on it, I'm not bothered.
Yeah, so. I love that too. And at least you've gone and like, and obviously you grew up around it, but you obviously still seeking the knowledge now too, and still, you know, and it's a big part of your life. So they can say whatever they want to. People are gonna talk shit anyway.
Exactly. And people are always going to find something to talk shit about anyway, you know.
Yeah, 100.
And let's be honest, like my skin color is probably the easiest thing for them to talk shit about.
Yeah,
so,
I can imagine. I was just thinking like to cousins that I had, they grew up, but then you're probably right. Like if they grew up, the ones that grew up around us in the community, it's all good. But when they went to other places, they're like, "Are you even Māori?" You know what I mean? Because they're fair. You know what I mean? But then they could speak Māori, all that stuff. You know. Yeah.
And
I
even
guess
like,
was it?
Like mine and Dylan's kids, you know, like they'll probably cop the same thing, you know, like both probably from their Aboriginal side and their Māori side, because you know, like our son is so fair, you know, he'll probably cop the same thing. We just got to grow them up to be staunch with who they are and where they come from, and
self-esteem too, eh? Just build that up.
Yeah, that's a huge thing, you know, the self-esteem part of it.
Yeah, I think so. If you grow, you know, if your kids grow up with good, you know, strong self-esteem, and you know they're sure of themselves, they'll be fine. You know, they'll be fine, and they know who they are, and like you both have the tools to be able to teach them a bit of who they are. All sides.
Yeah, exactly. Like Dylan's strong in his culture as well, you know. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Speaking on the Aboriginal side, obviously we can delve more into it, but the Irish side, how does this this Irish man link up with this beautiful Aboriginal lady?
So when Mum was down here in Perth, Mum and Dad met at a party. So so apparently he walked in and all his mates back in the, you know, 70s or whatever, all in their denim, you know, walked in all cool. And then, apparently Mum spotted Dad and they sort of, you know, hung out that night. And then apparently I think they left the party, and then later on Dad knew one of Mum's friends and he was like knocking on the window at the end of the night wanting Mum. And so she'll hate that I'm saying that. But so he just ended up.
Is he like a Aussie Irish, or is he like Irish?
No, Irish. So he immigrated here when he was 12.
Oh yeah, he Irish. Oh yeah. Do you know much of that side, like your grandparents on that side, or?
I know my Irish family. So like I know all Dad's family, sisters, cousins, all that sort of thing, and Granny and Granddad. But I don't know a lot of the Irish traditions. I don't know a lot of the Irish culture. I've never been to Ireland. So I think that's why I'm a bit more like identify with the Aboriginal side, because I feel like a bit of an imposter saying like, oh, I'm Irish, when I don't really know anything about that, you know?
True.
Yeah.
with the Irish side too, though, like they've had, like, obviously the Aboriginals have had, pretty hectic. So have Maoris, but even the Irish, they've been through the
Irish,
ringer they've been through the ringer too.
yeah,
Slaves for the British for a long
yeah,
time, and
exactly.
they've been under the thumb too. Yeah,
exactly. They're exactly like us, basically. Just, just
true.
like a pasty white version of it.
A lot of people don't realize too, like during the transatlantic slave trade, the Irish were the cheapest slaves. Like, and a lot of drainage systems and like the Americas and were built by the Irish, like, because slave labor. People don't realize that. I think people think that white is just white, and everybody. I think obviously some people have done things to certain skin colors, but there's also I just think people when they have more than someone else, like, and they believe that they should be treated differently, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's probably a big plight on the world too, is just people thinking I'm a king, so I'm better than you. You know what I mean? Because there's elites in everything, right? There's elites in I'm sure in Aboriginal, there's elites in Maori that I think I look at it and I think, like, why do you think you're better than our people? You know what I mean? Like,
and I hate that. Like, regardless of, I think, wherever I end up, I always want to be humble, and I always just want to be who I am. Like my cousins crack up at me that I'm still like an idiot on TikTok and just post funny shit, and I'm just I don't care. I'm me, I don't care what status I get to.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be myself.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing to have.
The way I'm going to treat them,
Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter if you become one of the biggest designers in the world. Like, you're still gonna be that girl from Fitzroy, from Fitzroy Crossing.
And I reckon that's part of it too. Keeping that connection to back home probably keeps me quite grounded and keeps me quite humble. Like going to Fitzroy. I was in Fitzroy about 6 weeks ago, and then in 6 weeks' time, I'm going to be in New York. So like the complete contrast of the two of them.
Complete.
It keeps you humble, right?
We going to New York for the fashion, is it?
Yeah, so me and Dylan are going to go over for New York Fashion Week.
Oh yeah. So what are there opportunities there, or are you doing it just for to go check it out? What's the obviously there's opportunities, but do you have something lined up?
Yeah, so I'm on a runway show there. So I'm showcasing. I know, right? So I'm showcasing my collection over there. There's the Nyaba collection. And it's going to be revealed over there. And then once we get back from New York, I'm going to release it here in Australia or release it in general.
Wow, that's pretty cool, eh?
Boy, it's a pretty big deal,
Yeah.
It's pretty, like, daunting. So they've given me the schedule for it. So we've got like content days, filming days, and then there's the runway show, then there's the after party, and there's all these things involved in it. It's pretty on. Yeah, so Dylan and I have to walk the red carpet, but he's like, oh, no. He's like, oh, I'll just wait backstage, eh? I was like, no, you're going to come and walk the red carpet with me. What are you talking about?
Yeah. But he's shy, eh? He's shy, the brother?
Yeah. He and I are complete opposites. He's like introverted, shy, whereas I'm like out there and, loud.
Yeah.
Opposites attract.
That's definitely. Yeah, but I just think that's exciting. How cool. Like,
I know.
Who would have thought, when you during COVID and you had this, other business, the salon, and now look at where you are,
I know, and that's what I'm saying. Like, how did this happen so fast? Because I launched the brand in September 22, and like September 24, I'm going to be in New York. Like the
2
transition
years exact.
of 2 years.
Boom.
Yeah. I think the only thing for me that it doesn't quite feel as successful as it is from like the revenue side of things and the financial aspect of it. Like when you run a business, you're always, any money you make is always poured back into the business. So you actually don't feel like you're getting anywhere financially, because everything is reinvested back into it. Yeah. So that's probably the only thing I think that makes me feel a little bit like,
Yeah, like I'm going to this fashion thing, but I'm not. I'm not bloody a millionaire yet.
No. Like Dylan keeps this whole show afloat. Like him working in the mines keeps our whole lives afloat.
Yeah, that does.
I'm just here having a great time.
Hey, but shout out to him for not only doing that, but allowing you to be able to express yourself, because some guys will be like, stuff that, we're not making any money, like, or much money, to stop doing that. But it's cool that you have that bond and that connection and that understanding to be, and like, bro, they chase your dreams, girl. Eh?
Yeah, and I love that about him. I think he's got that real sort of old school mentality of, like, the man goes to work, the man covers the bills, and like, do whatever you want, like, as long as my kids and my wife are looked after, like, if my wife wants to have a little side business, like, go hard. There's not an expectation for me to go and get like a government job and earn lots of money so I can contribute. He's just like, don't worry, I've got us, and you can do your thing, and if you're happy, my kids are happy, that's the main thing. So yeah.
Hey, who knows, after this though, after this whole thing, maybe you will see some changes in, you never know.
And that's what, and to be honest, that's kind of what we're doing. I think that's the goal behind it, is like, he's happy to fund it now because, there's an opportunity that it might pay off, and then he doesn't have to work away, and he can work back here in town, or just, do like an 8 and 6 or whatever, he can just work because he wants to, not because he has to.
Yeah.
So I think he's trusting the process.
Yeah, hard.
Yeah.
What's the actual different, like, what does the name mean? I know it's your Aboriginal name, but what does
so we don't have sort of like meanings of the names. It's more like it's passed down to you. So the names are kind of like recycled. So like, my mum is Yamandali, and then Yamandali's daughter is Jalayimia. So whoever, like, say 5 generations back, there was a Yamandali, and then the daughter was Jalayimia. So it's kind of like that, like it's recycled in that way.
Okay. Not necessarily about a situation that happened or anything like that. It's just, okay, cool.
Yeah. So that's the only hard thing, is that I can't, like, I wouldn't trademark Jalayimia, because it's not mine to trademark.
But someone will though.
Well, because it's like, it's our cultural thing. If I trademark it, then other people can't use it. Like there might be 4 generations down the line from me that wants to use Jalayimia. Like, I could probably trademark Jalayimia Swim, but not Jalayimia itself.
You probably should, if you're getting the New York Fashion Week.
I probably should, so that way someone,
don't take your shit, piss off. You know what I mean? Like, actual. I think you should at least just trademark that. I get it. You don't want to trademark the actual word because it's passed down in there. I understand. But somebody's gonna do it, So and why
after
not?
This, I'll be online like, fuck this.
You shall not. No, but I like. Hey, maybe we should cut that bit out. No. Oh shit! Shubz, you cost me my business.
No, I'll be getting onto it. I might even Google it right now.
I just think, like, it's viral, man, and just listening to other people too, with even people that have made podcasts and all these kinds of things, and then they've blown up, and then they've gone to like do things, and then they've got letters like, "Hey, you owe me money for that." Like, what? I was like, I made this. You know what I mean? Like, but damn.
And people are so quick, like, people are so quick to try and get their part. Like, it's like, people assume, right, for me, because I've got this business, that I am making heaps of money. So they'll be like, "Oh,
I think it's a company now."
Like, "Oh, I want my cut. How can I make, how can I get in there?" And it's like, fucking hell, I'm just trying to keep my head above water, I'm losing sleep at night. What are you talking about?
Yeah. I think they think you're in a position where you've stepped away and people are working for you and you're just the company. Like, no?
I do. I think that's, honestly, I reckon that's the case. Whereas, like, I'm still, when people ask me, like, "Oh, well, what part of your business do you do?" And I'm like, everything.
All of it.
Every single thing. Everything you see, I do that. Like, there's nothing, even like, it's been self-funded up until this point, So New York Fashion Week, I'm trying to secure some funding and get some kind of, like, financial backing to help, because it's expensive, but that's still in the process at the moment, trying to, wheel and deal a little bit.
Yeah, of course. How did that come about?
So I applied for something here in Australia, and it's like a fashion sort of thing here in Australia. And I was delusionally confident that I was going to be part of it. You know, like I was like, oh yeah,
like a show here or something.
Yeah, yeah. And I was pretty sure I was going to be part of it. Like I was pretty delusional, thinking like, of course, like. And then when I got the email to say that I didn't get in, I was kind of a little bit shocked. I was like, oh, okay. So it kind of motivated.
How dare you? No.
A little bit. I was like, oh, okay then. And so I just thought to myself, oh, well, I'll just find something bigger. So I started I started researching and, you know, asking around. And then Nat Dan, who did New York Fashion Week a couple of years ago, she was like, Brodie, applications are open at the moment, you know, like here's the link. So I was like, whatever, I'll just give that a go too, you know. So I applied for it, and I had a few emails back and forth from them, you know, like just sort of asking questions. And then one morning, Dylan and I woke up. It was during summer actually, and we were going to go for a swim at the beach really early, 6 o'clock in the morning. Ooh. And because of the time difference in New York, you know, so I checked my phone and I had a text message to say, Flying Solo has emailed you, please check your emails. And I was thinking, oh, I haven't had this, you know, like I haven't had a text message from them before. So I told Dylan and I said, Dylan, I've got this email here, you know, like I said, do I open it? And he goes, nah, we'll go have a swim first. And once we've done that, then open it, because then your mind will be clear and, you know. Yeah. So we went and had a swim, and then like we jumped in the car and we were driving along the coast. So I was like, okay, I'm going to open it now. And I opened it and it was like, congratulations, you've been selected to be part of New York Fashion Week. And I looked at Dylan and I was like, oh my God, like I've been chosen to be part of New York Fashion Week, you know? And yeah, we were just, the two of us were like a bit stunned sitting there in the car, you know, like it didn't quite hit you until you sort of got home and started thinking about it. And yeah, I was shocked that I was chosen.
Yeah. How long ago was this? Like that you got chosen?
It was in summer. It was maybe like February.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
wow.
It's been
so they
ages.
tell you way back then to.
Yeah.
And then what happens then? Like, do you when you send off to them, like, do you say I want to like showcase this line, or no? Is it just about what you've done?
So I showed them my previous collections of what I've done. And I I sent them some mock-ups of ideas that I had that I wanted to do. Okay. And then, they chose from there. And I sort of explained, like I said, gave them my website. I told them my business. I said what it was, you know, like what I do. Because it's not just a business. It's not just a swimwear brand, you know, like it's more about like body positivity, inclusion. A lot of my models are just everyday women. They're not, you know, like Ash has done it, you know, Ash did the first line. And it's about empowering women. So there's a lot more to the brand than actually just swimwear.
Anybody that's listening that knows my auntie that like strippers, that's her. Yeah, anyway, carry on.
So she was like, you know, so she's been part of it. And women walk away feeling really confident about themselves, you know, like they feel so much better about themselves. And even if they're feeling reluctant, like I say to them, think about when you're like 70 or 80 years old, you know, you're going to have these photos to look back on and be like, this is what I did. You know, this was me when I was like 20s, or I'd had 3 kids already. And, you know, like it's a really nice experience to look back at. Yeah. So it's more about that. And I think that's maybe why New York Fashion Week chose me, because it's not just fashion. It's so much more to it. You know, there's so many more levels to the
different
brand.
Elements there. So many different elements, not only body positivity, but it's an Indigenous brand. There's it's different. I think but they probably don't have anything like that. You know what I mean? Anyway, so like,
exactly. It's not. And it's all like, you know, obviously you've got Alibaba now, so you can get things like brands can take off quite quickly. But I think my stuff can't be mimicked because all the artwork is painted by me. So, you know,
true. Talk about
so all the artwork, cool. So this is I've got some here. Yep. So this is the latest one that I've got. So this is all my artwork.
What's that? Is that a bra?
This is like a bikini top.
Bikini top.
And then
that's
I've got
crazy.
I've had heaps of other collections as well.
How do you get it on like that? Like onto there? How do you put it on?
So this one was a painting that I did, and I took a photo of it, and then I got it transferred onto fabric. But this one here, I started doing it digitally because it has a more crisp sort of. So I got myself an iPad, and then I painted on the iPad now because it has like a more crisp kind of thing, and it's all about that's like the evolution of the brand, you know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Start from
so,
a photo to like boom, boom, boom. Let me do it properly. What did you find was different from obviously painting with a bloody paintbrush to doing it on the iPad or whatever you're doing it on? What was was that hard to do? Like as an artist, was it a bit because you're not?
Yeah, because you're so used to like actually, you know, feeling the texture and knowing the texture of it. So it was more about like having to learn all the different brush strokes and sizes and how, you know, like I was YouTubing all this stuff on how to use this app and, you know, how to make it work for me. So it was more like self-taught all over again.
Yeah,
have to try and figure out a different way of doing it.
And do you think you're good with it now? You got it down packed?
Yeah, I think so. Style? Like, I mean, I think you can always learn, you know, like there's always other things to learn. But I pretty much, I've got it down packed now, and I've learned like with the New York fashion one, I've kind of done like 2 layers to it. So this one is like 1 layer. So it's got like a background and then I've painted over the top of it. Whereas like the next one, it's kind of got 2 layers to it. So one's like a little bit more transparent, and then the top layer is more, you know, like really bold to sort of give it a different look. So I'm playing around with things, you know.
Hey,
and then you've got to think about what it's going to look like on the fabric too.
Oh, yeah, because it's a bit different than just looking at an iPad or a canvas even.
So then I've got 2 collections after this one now. So I've got the New York Fashion Week one, and then I've got one coming out in December, and they're both being made at the moment. So the one in December, it's like a crinkle kind of fabric. So the manufacturer is kind of like sending me different samples and showing me how it looks on the different fabrics and everything. So there's a lot to it. But this is the first collection that I've actually done with a manufacturer. So these previous ones were done like, have you heard on like, it's kind of like drop shipping, you know, like print on demand style. So that's what I started off with, just to play around with the business, see if it was going to be successful. So I did print on demand, and that's when I started realizing like, oh, this actually could be something, you know?
Yeah.
So this collection, I've invested money into buying stock, and I've got stock on hand now. So, and then I'm slowly gonna like phase out all the print on demand stuff and just have stock on hand because it's easier, more beneficial for business, you know?
Yeah.
Like it flows better not having the print on demand. Yeah.
And what was the initial, like, when did this, obviously it came through COVID, you had to close your salon, etc. But when was the initial, like, I'm going to make swimwear out of my paintings? Like, when does that idea come?
This is the thing. It actually started when I was like 22, 23. Because I did it when I was, I know.
3 years ago, eh?
Yeah, 3 years, definitely. So when I was working in government, my boss used to do the Rottnest channel, the Wodjum Up, the swim.
Okay. Oh, yes.
And I did painting for her office, and she was like, Brodie, I'd love for this to be on bathers. And, you know, imagine me wearing this when I do the swim. So her and I sort of started looking into it a little bit. But back then, you know, like there wasn't a lot available. It was kind of hard to do. And I just didn't have the capacity to do it, you know, like.
And even then,
trying to buy a house, and
social media wasn't the juggernaut it is now too. Then branded.
So once I had the time and the resources, I thought like, oh well, I can do it now, so I'll give it a crack. So I just did the print on demand. It was really popular. I've had like Clementine Ford, she bought some. Barker, the rapper.
Who's Clementine Ford?
Clementine Ford is like a radio presenter. She's kind of like a feminist, and she bought my bathers, promoted them, and I got so many sales from it, and it was amazing. Yeah. And then Barker is a rapper.
Yeah, I know Barker. Yeah. So
she
got bars, man.
Yeah, she's amazing, and what I love about her. both of them actually, is they just bought them. You know, like they didn't expect me to send them to them. They didn't.
That's cool.
You know, like they actually went on my website, bought them themselves, promoted them. You know, like it wasn't me asking it.
Also, you didn't even know they brought them, or you didn't?
No, I didn't know, because it was with Clementine Ford. It was like Christmas, like the 23rd or 24th of December. And I was down at the beach house with my parents and my phone was going off. I was getting all these orders coming in. I was like, what the fuck is going on? You know, like trying to look at my phone. And then I realized when I went on Instagram that Clementine Ford had shared it on her stories. Brilliant. I had like 7,000 worth of orders in 24 hours just from her sharing. Oh, yeah, I know, right?
7,000?
$7,000. And my mum and I and my dad, we were sitting there and we were like,
from her story.
Yeah, just from her. And that's not even me, like, I didn't send them to her. I didn't, you know, ask her to do that. She just bought them herself and posted them. And that's, you know, that's what came from it. So it shows you, you know, like if you have the right people supporting your brand, then you can get it out there. So I think that was kind of like the eye opener for me, that the brand was actually going to be something, you know?
Yeah. And I think like not only that, like the years of your life that it went into creating these pieces, like it's not just a moment where you're sitting there with a painting, like all of all of that journey, like that's your life journey going into this art, you know what I mean? And not only that, beyond that, it's your mum's, it's your grandmother, the one who gave you the name, it's you know what I mean, all going into this art. So you know, it's all that time, all that energy and effort from each generation, or that wairua, as we say in Māori. I don't know what you call it in your language, but in the spirit, I guess, going through into and the timing, I guess.
Yeah, and I think like I say to Dylan, and I say this to a lot of people, like with you guys, like with Māori, yous are lucky in New Zealand that like Pākehā and other cultures really embrace your culture. You know what I mean? Like you go over there and you see like, you know, like Pākehā wearing
because you would have been there. You would have been there.
Yeah, you know, and you see them wearing like, you know, they've got like, you know, I mean, I know it's not called tamoko when they're not Māori, but you know, like they've got tattoo, and they're so proud of Māori culture. And that's what I want to happen here in Australia. Like I want people in Australia, like Gadias, like white Australia or non-Aboriginal Australia.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Like, you know, I want, or even like, you know, we're so multicultural. Like I want other nationalities to come here and be proud of Aboriginal culture and to be wanting to wear it, you know? So I always encourage people to wear it, because I look at you guys and you're so lucky that people embrace it.
But even then though, it's only a recent thing, really. Like to be that way, like the generation before us, that was not the case. You know what I mean? Like they didn't even have the Māori, like the anthem in Māori. You know, it wasn't until the '99 World Cup that Hene Wehi Mohi was in Twickenham when the All Blacks played England, and she sung it only in Māori. Like everyone got offended. Like, you know what I mean? Like when say like by sort of like the '90s. Late 80s, early 90s was like the first kohanga generation. Like our people had to fight to get it back. Like don't get me wrong. Like it's only really a recent thing. Like and if you think about it too, like even just like 100, what it would be, like how long was World War I? That was only like 100, just over 100 years ago, 110 years ago. Like just before that, Māori were still fighting them. Like we're still fighting the British. You know what I mean? And then you know it's yeah, I hear what you say. We are very fortunate in that way, and obviously this current government is trying to strip away a lot of that. But yeah, it would be cool for the people here to have the same. What are your thoughts on like when they say, "Oh, try and make an anthem," because there's so many different languages in Australia. Like that's pretty hard.
That's the hard thing. I think the difference between like you guys and with us is, so we've got over 220 language groups.
It's crazy.
Just where I'm from, Fitzroy Crossing, which is like the Fitzroy Valley, there's like 2,000 people maybe. There's 5 language groups just there.
Yeah.
So that's the hard thing, I think, with like trying to make an anthem that's going to be suitable.
It's got to incorporate all of them, eh? Like, how does that work?
You know, like there needs to be some wording, I think. And even still for me, like I know they've changed the anthem slightly to say like we are one and free rather than like we are young and free, but it's still, like my daughter's got to sing it, at school, and it's still kind of like gives me the ick a little bit,
But it is, it is still the colonizer's anthem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know how they can change it. And I think as well, like on the weekend, because it was NAIDOC week last week, and they were talking about like languages. And I said, well, why don't they set up something, right? Like, say, like here in Perth, you've got Noongar, but you've got lots of different Noongar nations, but their language is quite similar. So it's like whatever area the kids are in, why don't they just learn that language? So like kids in Perth, they learn Noongar language. And like I know in Broome, they're learning like that language there. And, all across Australia, if they just implemented that, at least people are getting that exposure. Yeah. Like for me, when I was in school, we had our elders come in and we were all put into our language groups. So we learned our language from the elders, which was great. Like not many people get that, right? So we were really lucky as well, and really fortunate that we got that. That they would come in, we'd learn it firsthand, passing it down to us. And the fact that they put us into our language groups as well, so we were learning properly what we should have been learning.
Yeah. It shows too how much like the ripple effects of like things that are done in the past, how much it affects like the future generations. Like we just spoke on, obviously, like on Māori and there was Māori, and you know quite a bit about Māori, and you married one, and you know what I mean. So, but our like even like our people, like my grandparents' generation, they were beaten for speaking our language, which I know, just all of that like kind of stuff. And then like there's generations of people that don't know our language because of that. And even though we live in a society where to the outside world it looks like, oh, like Māori's embraced, but then we've got heaps of aunties and uncles that don't know Māori because their parents were too scared to teach their kids because they didn't want them to get bashed or get spat on and stuff like that. I just think it's crazy. And what you're saying here is like your elders have to teach you and come into schools where back in the days you would have just learnt it. Like it would have just been it. Yeah.
I think, and Dylan, like when you say that as well, I suppose with like the generations, like I know for Dylan, like he went to, like your Māori schools and stuff that you go to. And so in his school, he was taught Māori, like they only spoke in Māori in primary school. What's it called? I know the name. Yeah, that's the one. And he, so he went to a school that was that. Yeah. And he said, even back then, like, what are we, 35? So this would have been 20 years ago. Even back then, it was almost like a little bit frowned upon, and they were kind of looked at like they were like rough, or they were like,
wait, that's actual. Even I've gone back now, and then I've hung out with some, some whānau, and like some of the jokes they throw around, because they didn't go to kura or anything like that.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, actually, my dad's family, my dad, like, cause like some of his siblings, and much love to my aunties and uncles and that, but it's like, oh, you're like the kura kid, you know what I mean? Which is like, you're like, like you said, a bit rough, you're not as educated or something, or you're not as smart. Like that's fucking like that might just like it seem like a joke. Well, like it might be a joke, but like, bro, that's not good, cuz like fucking like we're shit, because we only learned Māori when we were kids and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I know like Dylan struggled with that a lot as well, because it wasn't more so until high school that he kind of had to like learn to read and write English, so it's taken him all this time over these years to like read and write English. Whereas Māori, like if we watch movies and it's got Māori subtitles or they're speaking in Māori, he's like, he can read it, he's fluent, you know what I mean? Like I remember I was crying. We went to Hawaii for our honeymoon, and they've got the Polynesian Cultural Center there. And so at the Polynesian Cultural Center, they've got like all the different Polynesian groups. And you go into, so like, Tahiti and, Samoa. And we walked into the Māori section, and this bloke must have realised Dylan had his tamoko, and he started speaking to Dylan in Māori, and Dylan was speaking back to him in Māori. And I was standing there like crying, because I was so proud of it. I just thought to myself, like, fuck, we are in Hawaii of all places on our honeymoon, and like my husband is here speaking in his language, like it just made me so proud that he got to do that. And that's what I say to him, that he's really lucky that he got that and that he knows that, and he still is really like he struggles a little bit with living here in Australia and not getting to do it often enough, but like he can go back there and he still knows what the hell's going on, and can speak and understand, and it's amazing to me that he can.
Yeah, no, I can relate. I'm the same. Like, that's my first language. Like,
Yeah.
I still read stuff in Maori when I read English. Like, that's like I understand. Like, I know a lot of English words and what they mean, but when I read them, and like heaps of times I read it in like a Maori way. Like my whole brain is wired that way. So and like,
same with Dylan.
And I think about it too, and I'm like, we get mocked for that shit, from our own people. But like, they probably just maybe just inside they just got it because they didn't get to learn. You know what I mean? And that's not that's what I mean. Like, when I talk about the effects, the ripple effects that are on that go for, like, I didn't even think of what you were saying about Dill's saying it was a bit frowned upon, and until I thought about like my family and how they would look at it, and then I would think, like, because I was the kura kid in my dad's family, because a lot of them went to obviously English speaking schools. They didn't go to Māori schools or kohanga, which is I guess what's it called? Be called like kindy for
daycare or something.
Daycare, kindy sort of thing, but Māori, because they didn't go to that. So I was like, like, do you think I'm like I'm paru or I'm dirty because I went to kura? You know what I mean?
That's how Dylan. I think that's how Dylan kind of felt. That he was kind of looked like, why are you doing that? Why aren't you learning English? Why aren't you?
You weirdo. Like, you know what I mean?
Whereas now, like, he's so lucky that he has that. Like, he's so fortunate to have that.
Yeah, I'm proud too. I'm proud. I don't give a fuck. Fuck them. But like, love them, but fuck them. You know what I mean? Like, and I get it. And it's also their conditioning too. You know what I mean? That's the way they've been conditioned.
And that's colonization. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, hard.
We're made to be pinned against each other all the time.
Right. And I think, you're right. I think a big thing too, and obviously I know like races, like, or like what really race is a social construct, right? Because we all just different shades, like, depending on where a lot of your blood comes from, is probably how or how the complexion turns out. Sometimes there's throwbacks, whatever. But we all human, man. You know what I mean? And we all have our own cultures. But I think they use racism, like they use black, white, brown to keep us. Like, and when I say they, I mean the colonizers, that are, because the structures, the hierarchies, the higher ups, the ones that the colonization that created these, these parliaments and all of these kinds of things, they still exist today. So the same Westminster system we live under, all of that kind of stuff was created to keep us separated. And the more we bicker and go against each other because of like our color of our skin or our cultural differences, the more they continue to win. That's what I was talking about before. I think, like, personally, my opinion, worse than racism is classism, is people, because I know Maoris that are Maori and speak Maori, and they think because of that, or they're better than other Maori, and because they're given money because of being Maori, whether it's through governments or whatever, they think they're better than other Maori. I know that exists throughout history, like, you know what I mean? Like, even going back to the transatlantic slave trade, the Africans were enslaved. Yes, they were, but they were given by their own people. You know what I mean? Like, classism throughout, monarchies, all of this stuff. Like, let's say, Brodie, you're the queen. You're Queen Brodie. You're a beautiful queen. You look after your people. That doesn't mean your kids will be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And in all likelihood, if you're a queen and you have everything is done for you and people, you have servants and all that, well, your kids probably won't be. You know what I mean? Probably won't be good people. And just because you're born into something, because your mother was something or your father was the king, I don't think that should mean that you should be anything. I think you should start again just like everyone else. You know what I mean? Or not have to. And when people get put into these class and these different statuses, they think they're better than other people. Regardless of
I agree with you as well. Like, I think about, and look, you can probably understand this as well. Like, everything's now going on to like online and social media, and like there's this automatic thing that because you have and this ties into the classism thing where like, because you've got X amount of followers or because you've got a presence online, that you're somehow like put into this sort of category, like, you know, you're doing really well, or you're better than everyone else, or you're like a celebrity, or, you know, people like act a certain way. And it's like, no, you know, I would never idolize anybody. I would never put anyone up on a pedestal, because I think that creates classism, and I think that gets that gives people an ego, right? So if you're like even my kids, I teach them. So obviously in Australia, right, like footy, AFL is like a huge deal. You know, it's a big cultural thing. So like footy players are put up on this pedestal by people. At the end of the day, all they're doing is playing a sport. Wait, you know, that's their job. They're just doing their job.
They're just chasing the ball on the field. That's all it is.
They're just doing a job. And so our kids, the footy players, came to school, and our daughter was like, Mum, she was like, everyone was like acting like silly, you know. She was like, they were like screaming and everything else. She was like, it was annoying. And I was proud of that she thought like that, you know, like she wasn't putting anybody up on a pedestal just because everyone else is, you know. So I'm trying to teach my kids that whole classism thing, and no one is better than anybody. It's about
Mm-hmm.
Did it cut out?
Yeah, you're saying you're teaching them about classism and no one's better than anybody.
Yeah, you know, and I just think that whole thing just doesn't exist, you know. I speak to people about who are too scared to post online. They don't want to put things up, and it's like, who gives a fuck? Like, this is just a made up reality.
Literally, you know, if you turn it off, if you turn the phone off, it don't exist, cuz it's gone.
You wouldn't even know about it. You know what I mean? You put the phone down, you never log on again. You wouldn't even know what the fuck's going on. You know, like who honestly cares? And I think that that whole everything is made, like you say, to be put into classes, like followers and like views and, you know, like jobs and status and money and all that is just made to put people into categories so we all get pinned against each other. Whereas it's like, are you a good person? Yes. Okay, cool. That's amazing. You know, like, I think my mum's generation, like my mum always say to me, like, you know, if I meet someone new or I talk about someone, they're like, oh, well, what do they do? As in, like, what do they do for work?
That's what I was. That's a big one too for me.
That's a boomer.
Like, that's a boomer thing. Say that, hey, what do you do? But it's like, depending on what I say is gonna depend on how you like rank me socially. Is that what it means? Like, if I say I'm this and that, then okay, you're here in my mind. You know what I mean? But like, what means more to me, I think, and just probably being Maori and maybe Indigenous too, where you from, cuz? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, because you can tell more about a person from that than like what they do. You know what I mean?
Right. You know, like I think about Dylan, for instance, right? Like, so he would get asked, say if he got asked, what do you do for work? And he will say, I'm a scaffolder. And automatically there's that stigma, right? Like, oh, scaffolders. Oh, you Māoris are scaffolders.
Yeah. Once we're warriors, now we're scaffolders.
But it's like, okay, on a different perspective, if you said to him, like, okay, how much do you earn a year? And if he told them that, people would have a different opinion, right? They'll be like, oh, you know. But when he says scaffolder, it's kind of like, oh, there's these two different things, like you say. And then if people said, like, where are you from? And Dylan will say, like, oh, I'm from New Zealand, you know, or, you know, and then they'll even further, they'll go, oh, like, where, you know, whereabouts? And Dylan go, Rotorua. And then even then, if he goes, oh, Rodidi, you know, like, and then people are like, oh, okay. So it's like you say, it's all where you come from, or, you know, the more detail people get, that's when they start to sort of look at you differently.
But it's funny how people attach. Oh, was it? Sorry.
And same for me, right? Like, people are going to look at me and see this white girl with blonde peroxide bleached hair that speaks really well, you know, that can speak high English. But then when they start getting down to the nitty-gritty and asking the questions of, like, oh, well, where are you from? You know, it's like Fitzroy Crossing. And that's when people's eyes light up and they're like, what the fuck? You know, like, because Fitzroy is known as, like, I mean, you guys probably have it in New Zealand as well, like, like it's known as a very strong cultural place in Australia still, you know, like it still has that title of being very culturally strong. So I think as soon as I say like I'm from Fitzroy, people kind of look at me like, hey, what?
Are you? Are you really?
Yeah. And then I start like, you know, delve into it more and more. And that's when people kind of thinking like, what the fuck? Like, look at this girl, you know, she's white as anything, but she knows what the hell she's on about. It's funny how people make that assumption of you, just, you know, like you say. But I'd love to do, you know, that experiment where you dress a certain way. You know, like you dress, say you go to the shops and you dress like shit and you look rugged, you know, and you get there and people treat you differently. And then I'd love to go to the shop the next day, like done up, makeup, nice clothes, see how I'm treated, you know?
Yeah. You should.
Yeah, I should try it out. Do a social
you
experiment.
should. Yeah. Just go in your PJs, like, or you know, leave a bit of wheat bix on the shirt or something. I don't know. It'll be a good social experiment. But all of that stuff, like, because even myself, like, I've been homeless as a teen. Like when I travel, I always go in, like, if I'm depending on what the sitch is, I always get a feed if I see someone and go and sit with them, because some of the homeless people have some of the coolest stories, man.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? All of that kind of stuff is. I don't that again, like you say, putting and also I think it, but not. I don't do it, you know. And let's get a camera out. Like I think that's
let's do a social.
Yeah. No, like the social experiment of doing that, like what you're saying about yourself.
Yeah.
But when you go and sit with homeless people and you just want to film it, you know, you're just putting a camera in their face. I just feel like like it's a bit of I say, well, you might be giving them $1,000 or something, but like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
I've seen people do it, you know, and it sort of like makes me a little bit like, you know, when you see people doing it, and like some people do it with Aboriginal people as well, like, and blackfella to blackfella, you know, like say someone who is in a more privileged position as an Aboriginal person, you know, like you got, you know, blackfellas here. Say for instance, like a lot of the time blackfellas are flown down to go to Royal Perth Hospital, and then they end up near like Wellington Square, you know. So like a lot of those mob there would be from the Kimberley. They get stuck here, you know. So they're not.
Is that what happens too? Eh?
Yeah. So like a lot of these mob, you can sort of tell, like, and probably similar with you guys, like you can tell certain blackfellas by looking at them where they're from.
Yeah. Okay.
So like I can tell, you know, like if I go say that way in the city, I'll see other blackfellas and I'll know they're from where I'm from, or, you know, similar area to where I'm from. And a lot of the time, they get stuck down here because, you know, like they can't get back home after their like medical treatment and everything else.
Oh, true. So they fly them one down and that's it. Then they
leave. You know, and there's a language breakdown, so they probably don't understand when, you know, when they've got to be places, where they've got to be. It's like, you know.
Well, that's what people don't notice too. I don't understand. I think too, because I've done a bit of like work in some communities and that, like just like you know, the maintenance and like, you know, fixing some houses and building some. That heaps of the brothers in some of those communities don't speak English. Like fuck all. You know what I mean? Like
a lot of my family. Yeah, like a lot of my family back home. You know, like so recently I made some bush medicine for NAIDOC week, and like when you make things. And this is where it's lucky for me that I've got both sides, right? Like I'm educated on the white side, educated on the blackfella side. So when you make labels for products, you have to list the ingredients on there. It's like a safety thing. And so the name of the plant in Boonaba language is Wallaba. So I started ringing around family and I was like, what's the English name for this plant? You know, like, do you know what it is? Like, you know, so I could Google it, find the botanical name. No one could tell me. No one knew the English name for this plant. And I rang like 5 different people, you know? So it's like back there, people are still practicing and speaking language and not having any idea what some English words are.
Wow. And that's what I was saying to some people too. Like, bro, like some of the brothers up there, they don't know yet, like none, like, or like not much. Or it's like all sort of pigeon, sort of like.
Yeah,
like,
they call it Creole.
Yeah,
so Creole's like the mixture of the language and English.
Yeah, that's what driven me out, and because I think people just think, oh, it's Australia, like it's just colonized, like. But some of these communities is so remote, like it's hard for it. You know, it took a long time for any white fella to even get there. You know what I mean?
And particularly where I'm from as well. So like where I'm from, you got to fly. Say to get to like Fitzroy, you fly from Perth which is a 2.5-hour flight to Broome. And then you drive from Broome inland for 4 hours. And that's how where I'm, like it's so, and you pass, when you're driving, you pass one roadhouse and that's it. Nothing else. And the next town is like 3 hours from there as well. So, it's still really remote up there where people come from.
But it's crazy too that you think about, like, obviously 60,000 years on this patch of dirt on this beautiful land, and like the places that the breeders got to, you know what I mean? Like, wow, man. And I just think, how the fuck you cousins survive out here this long? Like, wow, brother, Well, just Brodie boy be dead, cuz.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Like, when you go, like, say, like, from my Wamajeri side where we're from, that's desert, So they took us out like, when I was younger, we went on a camp with all the elders and they took us out there. And during the day, obviously, it's hot. At nighttime, it's freezing. Yeah. And I just think to myself, how did these mob survive? Like, how did these mob live out here when it was like hot as anything during the day? They got to source water somehow. Amazing. And then it's freezing at nighttime.
That's
and there's no animals that you can make, like,
like
coats out of or anything. You just don't know. Get the bloody shrubs or something. I don't know.
Right, that's what I think. I'm like, how did brothers live out here for this long? Cuz you're amazing.
And it's so nice, like, it's nice that you think that way, that you have that way of thinking, because there is still a huge stigma around Aboriginal people, that, like, a lot of people look down on Aboriginal people, like they don't appreciate those things about our culture, and like, it's just going to be so nice when people do embrace it.
Well, I just think like, obviously, because we come from a colonized people too, so and understand, like, the fight to try and get our language and to keep our language and to keep our customs. In a lot of ways, I guess, like, Maori, a little bit different, like, than a lot of even the Pacific, because a lot of the Pacific Polynesian nations were pretty much like the church has just dominated, like, has infiltrated, and it's all Jesus. Whereas, like there is obviously, there's like a bit of that in Māoridom, but there's still a lot of our own traditions and still a lot of our own cultures still kept, that's sort of void of religion. You know what I mean? So I think, like, maybe growing up that way too, inclined, and and understanding, like, there's a whole world out here of people who have been. And because I think my grandparents probably had a lot to do with it, my nan and koro, because my koro had a lot to do with a lot of politicians and stuff like that, and in his line of work. But they always educated me on understanding how systems work, and how people are oppressed, and I guess how they believed we could free ourselves, and even down to things like straw man, understanding all of that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I learned that stuff as a kid when I couldn't even really speak English. You know what I mean? So, and then probably that too, like, understanding not speaking English, and that good as a kid, and then being around some brothers and seeing that they're the same, but then finding out, like, bro, they've been here for that long. Like, wow, this, like, how does this happen? Like, and I've always been someone that's questioned everything since I've been a child, and I still do. So even then, in my mind, I'm not thinking about you're blacker than me. I'm just thinking, like, how the fuck you fellas live out here this long? You know what I mean? That's it. Like, because there wasn't no planes coming in here. There wasn't no, like, there's no Land Cruisers, cars. Like, what the hell? It just blows my mind. You know what I mean? And like you said, very little water source. You know what I mean? Very little. Like,
I remember them showing us how to get it, like how to get water and stuff, like digging way down in the ground and stuff to try and get some water, and like pretty full on, Like,
wouldn't it be better just to stay by the?
I know, like, go back there to the riverside,
riverside and that. But, like, that's amazing when you think about it, because people don't understand how huge Australia is too. Like, the land itself is, like, WA, I think it would be like the 15th or 16th biggest country if it was a country itself. Australia, if you put it over the continental US, it's about the same width as it, like, but obviously in US it's all filled in the middle. It's not a big sand, but, like, bro, like, it's just crazy. It just blows my mind, and how these people have survived here for that long. And then even obviously, like there's a rich history that hasn't been told, and people like yourself with what you're doing is good, helping to bring that, not just bring it back, but keep it alive. And your
And
grandchildren one day can say, "Oh, my grandma, she did this,"
Yeah, and I think too, like I've said this in interviews before, whereas like fashion's like a surface level thing, right? Like it's a really easy, it's visual, it looks pretty. But I think the fact that it's got the artwork on there, that opens up conversation then, like they see it and they're like, oh, this is really nice. And then they start asking questions. And that's when you can like educate people on culture, and you can, give them that different perspective on it. So it's like I said, the brand itself isn't just swimwear. There's so much more to it on those levels. The lower that you go and the more in-depth conversations you have, you learn more. Like, people are learning about Aboriginal culture through this brand.
Yeah. You know what I think is cool too? That like exactly what you said, but the fact that it's like you said, yeah, fashion cool, you can buy these, it looks cool, but the conversations that are open, and the fact that a lot of the stuff. Like it's not just like, don't get me wrong, like if you didn't know, obviously you got to go, it's still in you, it's your culture. But the cool thing is that you're not just doing it like, oh, it's cool, like it's cool to do, I can make some money off this. Like it's actually you know what I mean? You bleed it, you live it, you breathe it, you're proud, you're from there, you know what I mean? I think that's cool.
That's a lot of the conversation too that happens with Aboriginal people as well. And they talk about like there's a difference between, like monetizing it, like monetizing the culture, but then it's also like having the lived experience as an Aboriginal person and sharing that are two completely different things. And I think like, because I've grown up Black, I am sharing that with people, it's not like I've just last minute found out that I'm Aboriginal, and I'm like, I'm gonna paint, like I'm gonna do some painting and
let me capitalize on this market.
It's not like that. And I think that's where I'm really lucky too. Like even though the way I look, there might be the assumption that that's how it is. There might be an assumption like, oh, this girl probably just found out she's Black, did a DNA test and that's it. But it's like, no, I've come out of a black hole. Like, don't question me.
But that's another element to the story. Like there's so many layers to this whole thing. And I think that's and it's cool that you're taking it to the world. Like, shout out to whoever that is that's taking you, that said come through. Like that's pretty, that's pretty on, And
I did a TikTok the other day, and I put out like a shout out to brands, because like obviously I know lots of Aboriginal brands, but I don't know a lot of like Polynesian brands.
Yeah.
So Dylan's Māori, but he's also Cook Islander as well.
Yes, that's right.
So I put out this TikTok, and I got all these really great responses from different brands in New Zealand. So it's even that, like combining the two cultures together and showcasing the two of them. Like I'm big on like bringing along people with me. Like it's not like if there's someone who's loyal to me, I want to bring them along with me. I'll showcase them as well, like Ash, for instance, like she always does my cakes. And, my friend Emma, she's going to make the earrings for me, that the models are going to wear on. So I'm happy to bring along people like that. And I want to support other brands and bring them along. Like, it's not just about me. It's about the community as a whole, and those people that, are deserving of showcasing their stuff as well.
Yeah, he waka eke noa, we would say. He waka eke noa. We're all in this together.
Exactly. That's what it is. Like all of us are in there together. And I think that like going back to the classism stuff, and it's like the tall poppy syndrome stuff, which is really like prevalent in both of our cultures. I want to try and get rid of that, because you do see a lot of it, and I think that it really holds people back. And look, because I'm staunch in knowing where I come from, I'm not afraid of people. Like, I'm not afraid of people questioning me, and I'm not afraid of people trying to bully me out of doing things. But I'm sure that there are other people out there that aren't probably as staunch in their culture or their knowledge on what they're doing, or, so they would be scared to do things. But I think it's about like educating everyone and bringing everyone up. And, like, I think it can look quite unprofessional if we're all sort of pinning each other against each other. So I'm big on supporting other brands, and like, you know, I want to wear heaps of other Aboriginal brands when I'm over there and showcase them, and, you know, like get them on the big stage too. You know, it's like this whole, this whole thing.
Yeah, I love that, and I just want to speak on that as well. Like that's a big a big part of what I'm trying to do with this anyway is like we grow up and we hear about Aristotle, Plato, Homer, not the Simpson but the Greek scholar. We hear about Socrates. All of those guys are put on a pedestal as some of the greatest minds of their time, or the greatest minds of their time. But I think they also forget about, obviously I'm Polynesian, so Maori, so we come from that Polynesian triangle. Our ancestors were navigating the seas using the stars, like doing cool stuff just at the same time. And even again, speaking on your people surviving in like the most seemingly barren land, like for thousands of years, like there's stories that we have too that can be told. And also that whole pedestal thing that you spoke about with your children, and how she's like, oh, I don't know whether they've been going crazy at school for this bloody, you know, footy player, whatever. That kind of thing too is showing that everybody, like, because a lot of the bros there talk to me, they go, oh, that was a cool interview. Oh, they're just like normal people. Like, well, we're all people.
Yeah,
like, what do you mean? That's what I mean. So like, it's bringing that humanity back. And then I think like with the athletes, a lot of times people forget that they're human too. And it's trying to show that side. That's why I like to talk about people's journeys and how they became them. So and when people say like, oh, I'm not trying to be like a thing, but I think I'm pretty good at this one. I'm still humble, but like I want to get rid of that little stigma of like them having to put out a like little caveat, like I'm humble, but I really believe in myself. Like, bro, just believe in yourself. It's not demeaning to somebody else just because if you've got the skills and you've done the work and you believe in yourself. Like, go hard, like, and be proud of it. Don't be like, oh, like, you know, I'm not getting a big head, but like, you know, getting rid of that stigma too, which is all comes from tall poppy syndrome, I think. You know, the people are too afraid to go out and shine because, bro, your shine shouldn't block anyone else's shine. You know, they get their shine on their own.
And there's enough for everyone. Yes. You know, like there's like, I think about the Aboriginal population, like we make up 3% of Australia. There's enough customers.
Is that all?
That's all. That's it.
Oh, you know, it's crazy on that. Yeah, of course there is. Even on that note, you know, Simon Beard, the Culture Kings founder.
Yes, I see lots of his stuff pop up.
Did you see the one that he did about, and it was a Shopify, that Shopify gold bag that you get for 1 million buys from a certain region, but it was from. So he had this one, and he said it was his like favorite Shopify golden bag because it was 1 million sales, but in New Zealand on Shopify. And this is a country of 5 million people now. Only recently, like, and he's like, people don't let anybody tell you a market's too small or anything like that. Like, like I thought
that's what I think. Like, I just think there's and everyone's got their own customer base, right? Like. Everyone, like, there's going to be people that love what I'm doing, but there's going to be people that are just like, nah, like, I don't really like that whole, I don't like this element of her brand. But I like this brand over here. So we've all got our own customers, like I've got my customer base, they've got their customer base. Like, everyone's going to win if you just be yourself, do your thing. Like, people pick up on that. People can see that you're just, like you say, you're just a normal person. And sometimes, like you say, with the athletes, like, they probably get really fucking sick of being like, this like object to people, like, oh, can you sign this? They probably just want to have a yarn sometimes. Like, hey, how are you going? How's your day? Like, not, can I have a photo? Can I, like, how you see videos of celebrities where people come up to them and they're like, can I have a photo? And they're like, fuck, like, can I offer you anything else? And I get, like, I can see where they're coming from. Like, they're probably just so sick of people coming up to them and they're just like, oh, I just want to be treated like a normal everyday person, not just an object, not just a bloody,
It's obviously hard though, because especially if you're talking about like a celebrity, like your whole shit is built on people caring about you. So obviously it's got to be fucking hard to deal with. And when people go off the rocker, like even Britney, obviously there was a whole lot of stuff that went on, but like no one can prepare you for that kind of shit. You know what I mean? That kind of stardom, like whatever, whether you're a Justin Bieber or whoever, fucking like no one could prepare you for that many people knowing you in the world and never being able to go outside. like from a youngster since you're like a teenager.
And it would be so annoying. You know, it would be like, you think about it, you know, like it'd be so annoying to just not be able to go somewhere and just have people coming up to you, or, you know what I mean? Like,
hey, be careful what you wish for. That could be you, Brodie George. You never know, eh?
I don't know. That's what I think about, you know, like sometimes say like when me and Dylan are out with the kids and like the kids are running amok, you know, and like Dylan and I are pissed off with each other, and, you know, like someone might see us and be like, what the hell, you know, like what's going on there? But it's just like, that's just normal life. Like, kids are fucking hard work, you know, like it puts a strain on your marriage sometimes and you have to have a fight over it. Like, that's just everyday shit that you got to deal with.
But it's like, but it's even it's funny you say that stuff too, because even like baby mama, she's like a few times we've gone out, and because I'm like, you know, I just sometimes I'm a bit out the gate, not most of the time actually, but like, you know, she'd be like, oh, someone might recognize you, bro. Relax. like, you know, or just like things that I do. Like, I was like, fuck.
I know.
Yeah, not even that bad, but just me being me. You know what I mean?
Me too.
Shit. Yeah. She'd be like, bro, don't do that.
That's what I think about too. You know, like if people, I don't know, like see me or, you know, recognize, and they'll just be like, what the fuck, like this girl's got no shame, or, you know, this girl's just pretty, and it's like, why? That's who I am. I don't care. Like, this is me. This is who I am. I like to have fun. I like to live life, you know, like,
because like I don't. Do you do like live streams at all, like on TikTok?
I haven't done a live stream, but I'd like to, because I think that, like, I've been looking into all this research about like personal branding and all that sort of thing, you know, and it's huge. Like, it's a massive part.
Like, it's huge, because that's what I used to do before I did this. Like, there's like a whole, I don't know if you think, but there's like a ranking system and all of that.
Yeah, Dylan was telling me.
Yeah, I got like number 1 and all that in those rankings in Australia and New Zealand. Like, I was into it hard, like, and like pretty much lived in there for a couple of years. And a couple of times I've been like out. I don't really go anywhere, but like, you know, but I've been, and then a couple of people, oh, are you Shubz? Like, this is from the TikTok thing. And I never really posted content like at all. Like, literally just was streaming. And I'll be like, nah, that's my cousin. No, that's my cousin. But like, but when you're talking about that whole imposter syndrome at the start, I was like, yeah, I probably like was like that too. I was like, yeah, because like I now forget that my name's Martel. I think I'm fucking Shubz. Like, but not like I think I'm just different person. I just forget that's my name, and then when I like hear it, I'm like, oh yeah, shit, that's right. Because everybody every day makes voice mission, whatever, it's all Shubz this, or Shubz try this, or especially from the live stream, right? When you jump into battles or connect with people on the live stream, everybody Shubz. So I'll sort of forget that, and then when you go out of the virtual world and you're in the room, and someone say, "Oh, you Shubz?" Like, nah, that's my cousin. I was like, oh, I don't know what to say. I don't know.
That's what I feel like with Jalayimia, like, because obviously, right, like people see Jalayimia Swim, but then like, you know, when they see Brodie George, they're probably like, who the fuck is Brodie George? You know, it's like, that's my name. That's who I am. And then when I had the eyebrow salon, I used to have people come up to me and be like, oh, you're the eyebrow girl. And I'll be like, oh, yeah, like, that's me, the eyebrow girl. So it's like, you know, you get these names that people call you, like the eyebrow girl, or like, oh, Jalayimia, or, you know, like, it's like, oh, I'm actually Brodie, but, you know.
I guess there's fucking worse things people could come up to me and
say. Exactly. There's worse things that I could call.
I've done some dumb shit too before, like in the past, just, you know, being young. So I guess it could be worse, say. But yeah, that like fortunately I've really gone anywhere. Like I do, but like, you know, it's pretty low key. But I don't. Oh, when like baby mama said that about, like, to me when we were out with the kids a couple months back, I was like, I didn't really think about it. She's like, bro, someone might recognize you, like, just like fucking. Oh, I think it was. Oh, we're going into Aqua. You know, Aqua. You know, Ripple Fairs, Aqua. But we were going into Aqua, and then like I just. Oh, I think I like must have jumped in line, but I didn't know. I was just like talking to the kids and not looking. And it's like, don't push in line, like people might see you, like think it. And I was like, oh fuck, I didn't even realize. But like, oh, I don't know. I'm not gonna change who I am.
And I think about with the way that I dress, right? Like, obviously people see me as like a fashion designer, like, oh wow, fashion designer. Fuck, during the day, I'm in like hoodies and tracky Crocs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Comfortable,
I'll
baby.
post that. I'll make sure I post that shit on my page so people know. Like, don't think that I'm this glamorous person all the time, because a lot of the time I'm scruffy as fuck and I don't care what I look like. Like, I know that I can put an outfit together when I really want to, but most of the time I want to be really comfortable. So if you see me walking around scruffy, that's who I am.
Yeah, but that's cool, and that's like, again, personal branding. That is you. You know what I mean? That is, and I think you should, like, on the live streaming side, if you need any tips or any help, like, that fucking was my world for like 2 years, pretty much. Like, so yeah, hit me up.
I
I can.
Because I've been doing the research in it and stuff, that apparently you can get decent sales from that. Like, obviously,
yeah, of course you can.
I'm in the e-commerce side of things, and I need to learn how to, like, get the live streaming happening to then convert it into sales.
Just bring it into your life, like in parts, obviously, probably don't want to show your kids, but like in your own life where you're just doing, I don't know, where it's just you, bring it in that way somehow, like whether it's like, whether it's you're going on drives or whatever it is, whether it's when you're making stuff with your hands, like, you know, it could be some ideas, people, but literally, you can get some real good sales, because I know a lot of people in the game that have done all right through using live streams. A lot of big content creators too through it that have done quite well. But that's what they say too, is they're like, I didn't even realize I was live streaming for ages, selling these products, but I wasn't really pushing them on live. Then I like started incorporating it. Then I started getting sales from it. And these are like some of the homies, they have like millions of followers. You know what I mean? They just didn't realize that would convert. Because a lot of people too don't realize there's like two different worlds. So a lot of the people that like scroll and look at posts, a lot of them on TikTok, heaps of them don't understand how lives work or even watch them too long. Whereas there's a whole lot of people in the live world that only watch lives. You know what I mean? Like, they don't really watch any content. Like, they live for live streams. And I pretty much did that for like 2 years. Like, I had crazy live streams, sometimes like 10,000 people in there, like all that kind of stuff. Like, and consistently as well. But yeah, I'm not really in the game, not anymore, because it's never say never. But I'm just really enjoying this, so, you know, and putting in.
I assume the lives would be quite time consuming. You know,
it is, and especially like, well, because I wasn't doing it selling a product or anything. I was just trying to push these ranking things. I don't know if you've heard of the rankings and that. I was trying to get those. Which, don't get me wrong, you can make a lot of money if you're living in the rankings. Like, if you're 99 to the top one, like, you know, you're making like grands every week. Like, and if you're in the upper echelon, you could be making 50K plus in a week. You know, it's changed now because it's daily. When I got number one, it was weekly. You know what I mean? And then obviously you can choose, you can exchange the coins and give it back to other people. We can keep it, whatever, it's your choice. But I think it's because people will be like, oh, on live, you're just sitting there begging for money. But like, again, like you said, time consuming. People don't understand the energy you have to have. Like, you have to be, like, you have to pretty much, even though you might be being you have to keep that whole time. And when you get off, you feel like, holy Rick, I'm zapped.
I feel like that, and I know what you mean. Like, it's you, but it's like a an energized version of you, right?
Yes. Like, and you have to keep that
and having to keep that level of energy that entire time. It's fucking exhausting. Like, I know after markets. Say when I do a market and I have to sit there and talk
that's a
all
good example.
day. Like, I get home and I'm buggered. Like, I just go and sit in the room in the dark and like scrolling on my phone. And Dylan's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I just need like 15 minutes to just recap and just calm down," you know? So I can imagine that would be time consuming. And I think that's the thing for me, is that like sometimes I find content really, really time consuming. And a big part of it is me, like, I'm a mum majority of the time, but I don't show the kids on any of my social media. You know, so it's like, how do you get a fun? And now, like, our daughter's at the age where she wants to be in the videos, but I have to say to her, like, no, I don't want you in this. But she doesn't understand social media. Like, she doesn't understand, like, she probably thinks like, oh, well, why don't you want me? You know, whereas it's like, no, I want to protect you. Like, I don't want you to be on this, but because she's got no idea what TikTok is, she's got no idea what, you know, anything is. How do you explain that to a child, you know? So I find myself not recording as much as I probably could. And then it's like that imposter syndrome at the same time. Like, do people even find me that interesting? You know, like, do people even find what I'm doing interesting? Whereas it's like, people actually would find that really interesting, what you're doing, you know?
Bro, like it's one of the most Googled things is how to boil an egg. Like, I'm sure people will find what you do interesting. There's a whole, like you said, again, there's a customer base for everyone. There's also a viewer base for everybody. You know what I mean? And yes.
Like I say to Dylan, you know, like how you were talking about trying to get Dylan on a podcast. Like, I say to him all the time.
That's still a goal of mine.
I said to him, I was like, Dylan, I said, I would love for you, like, say, like when he flies out to work, right? Like, I'm asleep. Say if he gets a really early flight, I'm asleep. He gets in the Uber. I would love for him to make a TikTok of his whole journey of getting to work. Because people don't know, like a lot of people don't know the FIFO world.
Yeah, that's right.
His whole thing of getting there, then he's there. Like, people would find that sort of content really, really interesting. But for him, it's everyday life. So he's probably just like, who wants to look at that? You know, like I've even said to him,
heaps of people do. Everybody wants, because that's not everyone's every day.
Yeah, I said, put your phone on time lapse and like record yourself building a scaffold, like a huge, you know, I said people would find that so interesting. Like, I'd love to see him doing that. I find it very, like, for me, I find it very attractive that he is like, you know, like in that masculine industry. Like, I like seeing him dirty and in his work stuff. So for me, it would be great, you know. But he just, like, for him, he's just like, who wants to see that? No one wants to see, you know, like FIFO. That's because it's normalized to him.
Yeah.
Whereas I probably need to have that thinking too, that people would probably love to see the behind the scenes of, like,
they would 100. I want to watch it. Like,
the hard thing, I think the hard thing is at the moment, because New York Fashion Week is so under wraps, you know, like I'm trying not to show anything about
but why don't you just do it all and then put something out later? Like,
that's what I'll do. Yeah. So then, but the next collection that I've got happening, I'm going to show like step-by-step process of me, like, because I've already designed it and stuff, but I'm going to show like a step-by-step process of me, like, doing the artwork and designing the swimwear and, like, you know, sending it to the manufacturer, her sending me the samples back, all that sort of stuff. I'm going to share it from start to finish. But at the moment, I can't really share anything. So we're going to do a really cool photo shoot for this New York Fashion Week collection, but it's all under wraps. So, like, the models aren't going to be able to post any behind the scenes. I can't even say what it is because it's something completely different to what we've done before, you know? Like, it's all really confidential and secretive, but it's all really exciting. But I just wish, I'd like to be able to share it, but I can't.
No, all good. No, exciting.
Yeah.
But
I'd love to know more about the lives. I'd love for some of your advice on the lives and stuff. Yeah.
Call me up anytime you want to know. Anything else you want to plug before we get out of here? I do have a couple quick questions before we do go. If that's right.
No, I could talk all day, so I'll let you wrap it up.
No, me too. If you could eat one meal for the rest of your life, every day you got to eat this meal, what would you eat? What would you choose, I guess, to eat every day? You can't say your husband because that's already on the menu.
I was going to say something really fucked then, but I won't. I don't know. I love buttered chicken. I could cook buttered chicken a lot of the time, so maybe that.
Yeah, do the kids like it too?
Yeah, they like it too.
Yeah, mine do too. Butter chicken.
Yeah.
All right, butter chicken. Hey, are you having any naan bread with it?
Yeah, garlic naan.
Got to have a garlic naan, eh?
Yeah.
I'm with you. And what about washing it down? What are we washing it down with?
Dylan and I were doing some TikTok quizzes the other night.
Oh, you're not washing it down with Dylan. I already said this.
No. I don't know. Maybe like a peach iced tea.
Oh, peach iced tea. Like your homemade one, or?
Yeah, I don't mind those. Or like the ones where you get them like made at the shops and you can like choose your sugar or like how sweet it is. Probably one of those ones. Oh, okay. But not with the pulp. You know, the pulps.
Nah, that's yuck, yeah.
Like, why do they put them in there? Like, yuck, get them out of here.
Yeah, no thanks. Yeah, no, okay, peach iced tea, butter chicken. It's a bit of a different combo, but I'd go it too. Okay, superpowers. If you could choose any superpower out of the realm of superpowers, or maybe because you are creative, create your own. What would you choose and why?
To be honest, I'd probably love to fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to fly.
Where you flying to?
I'm actually a nervous flyer on a plane, but I think that's more that I don't have any control of it.
Okay.
So I
if you've
think if
got,
I could control how I fly and where I'm flying, I'd be all right.
yeah. Okay, give us
Yeah.
3 destinations you'd fly to that you haven't been to yet.
Pyramids is my number one.
Which one? There's
Like
a lot of pyramids around the world.
the Egypt pyramids.
Oh, Giza,
So
the Giza
I've got a
Plateau.
thing.
Okay.
I love like abandoned buildings and like ancient ruins. Like I've got a real thing about it.
Hey,
You know?
that might be the next progression of content around. Once you blow up
Yeah.
as this big fashion mogul, start
Yeah.
traveling the world,
Yeah.
visiting these ancient ruins.
All these places.
Yeah,
That's
I'll
what
show
I
you
wanna
who
do.
Brodie George is, mate. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I want to do. I want to like, and whenever we go anywhere, we went to Kalbarri recently, and there was like an abandoned old movie theater. And I said to Dylan, I was like, I want to go in there. And he's like, fucking hell, you're gonna get like, you know, spirits can latch onto you if you go to these places. And I was like, oh.
in there. Let's go.
So I'd love to go to the pyramids. Where else would I like to go? I'd like to go to Ireland because I've obviously never been. So
Yeah. Do you know where your dad's from over there? In
Dublin, Rathfarnham.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I'd love to go and see where Dad's from and where he grew up, and like go and see all, you know, like all that side of my family. And then I'd probably like to go to the Cook Islands. I think, and see like that side of Dylan's, you know, like and it's beautiful too. Like it's a really beautiful place, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah,
that's 3 cool locations. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Got any advice for anybody that wants to get into the fashion industry? And they, you know, they got the skills like Brodie George, but in a different way, you know.
Just do it. Like I think people, like we were talking about before, you know, people are really reluctant to do things because they're worried about what people are going to think. But I think who cares what anyone thinks? Just try it. Life is so short. You know, like anything can happen at any moment. Like you might as well just try things and do something different, you know, just be delusional and give it a go.
Fucking oath. I don't like, I don't know, people be hating on delusional, but sometimes like, you know, what people think is delusional is they can create some cool shit. You know what I mean? Like if it's not different, if it's not out the box and if it doesn't upset, you know, what's normal, then how is it new? How do you create things? So. Yeah,
my cousin. So my cousin Billy is the top Indigenous model in Australia, and she's living in New York at the moment. And I remember when we were young, or like when she was younger, she was always like, "I'm going to be a model, and I'm going to be doing this, and I'm going to be doing that." And she said that for years, and now she's been on, like, she's recognized here in Australia and she's in New York and she's doing all these amazing things. And that's just, people would have thought she was delusional for saying that, but now look where she is, you know?
Yeah. I think that's the key too. Like what I'm learning lately too from different people that I've interviewed and stuff is because I always thought like, and it's probably just toxic upbringing things like that you like if I tell myself I'm shit, it'll motivate me to do something. Like, or like when people tell me, "Oh, you suck at this," like, I'll fucking prove you wrong. And I'm learning now that like the more positive thoughts you have, the more you know consistent. Like the amount of people that have manifested their lives, like from just believing and not just self belief, but having good positive thoughts. And I seen this. Do you know Patrick Bet-David?
No.
Oh, he has a huge podcast anyway, and he had an insurance company that he sold for like, I don't know, 300 million recently, but like a year ago or something like that. But he had a thing about when he tapped into some dude, and he was talking about like what's the difference between like the top 5 tennis players in the world and the top 25, because like he's like, is it talent? No. Is it like all of, like a lot of people think like it's all of these things, like the top 5 aren't more talented than the top 25 because they're about the same. Anything is like the top 5, if they miss up a point, that like the ones, the top 25, they're and lower, a lot of them will, you know, go into the shower and be mad at themselves. Whereas the top 5, they just straight away positive thoughts, like it's all good. Next point, like next thing, and that goes back to what you just said about not caring what people think, you know what I mean? Not caring what, and then if you what's the worst is gonna happen? You fall on your face, or just get back up, you know what I mean, and try again. Yeah, so I love
Yeah,
that.
and I think all of that manifestation and positive thoughts is a huge thing, right? Like, so I've got an app on my phone, and I bet it's given me 2 notifications while we've been sitting on here, and it's like affirmations. So it sends me like 10 affirmations a day. And my mum's like, well, why do you need so many? And I was thinking, well, okay, say you're having a really good day, right? And something turns to shit. And then you get a new affirmation pop up on your phone that is exactly what you needed at that very second of your day. It's going to change the rest of your day, right? So by having these little reminders that pop up on your phone and give you these affirmations, it's like that little bit of positivity that you get, you know? And then I've also on my phone, I've got like my wallpaper at the moment is so my yearly goals. I've got a couple wallpapers. So I've got my yearly goals of what I want for this year. So I'm constantly seeing it, you know, like it's constantly in my face. And then I've also got one for like my life goals of like the dream house that I want and dream location I want to live and everything else and what, like, you know, what I want. So it's constantly in my face. So you're getting that constant reminder, and it's that always that manifestation of what you want. So I try and do those little things, even though like I will admit at the moment I'm struggling a little bit because New York Fashion Week is a lot of stress. And our dog passed away, and like my mental health's been a bit shit, you know, like I've been struggling maybe the last month, but I'm trying to do things to actively get myself better and, you know, get back on that positive train, and because I know it pays off.
Yeah, hard, but it's not easy, and nothing that's worth it comes easy. So
exactly,
you gotta go through that. You got to go through that. And, hey, just keep going. Eh? Hey, keep going.
Yeah.
You got this. Great things are happening, and sorry about the dog. Rest in love to what is it? A guy or guy?
Henry.
Was it a? The Bro Henry. Shout out to the Bro Henry.
Dylan used to call him Henare.
Henare. Henare. Henare. Hey. It's the love, bro. Hey, last question. Visualization. Speaking on what you just spoke on, can you give us 10 years from now what you hope life to be like for Brodie George?
Yeah. So this is one of my 10-year plans. So I really want a you know, like the Queenslander houses. They're like those beautiful old vintage, and they've got like the wraparound verandas. And they're high, and they've got like these beautiful. So I want a house like that. And I want to be living near the coast. So I want to have a coastal view. I want to be able to like wake up in the morning and the ocean's right there looking at it, you know. Obviously I want Dylan and I to be happy and healthy, and I want our kids to be confident and happy and healthy. I hope my parents are still here. And I just look, I don't want to be rich. I just want to be financially secure. You know, I just want to be comfortable that we can do things when we want to, we can travel when we want to, and we can just enjoy life. Like I said, it's so short, you know what I mean? Like I want to enjoy life, and I don't want life to be stressful. I just want to have a good time while I'm here.
Oh, I'm sure you're gonna ace it then. Keep up those daily affirmations and keep it in your face and keep smashing towards it. And I'm sure you'll see all that success. I just want to say, Brodie, time's the most valuable commodity we have as humans. The one thing we can never get back. We can always get back money, things, but time spent is time lost. So thank you for sharing an hour and a half of your time with me and anybody that listens to this for years to come. I wish you nothing but success, and can't wait to see you killing it over there in New York Fashion Week for the first time, but it won't be the last.
Yeah, thank you. I really enjoyed this today. You know, I was really excited when you first messaged me and you said about like, you know, you want something that your ancestors, like how amazing would it be if we could look back at our ancestors talking like this? And that really resonated with me. And I said that to Dylan. I said, I really liked that he worded it that way because it is so important. And it made me excited to come on here because I knew that I was going to have this really in-depth conversation with you. You know, like I knew it wasn't just going to be some surface level conversation.
Fuck no.
Like I knew it was going to be quite in-depth, and I was really, really excited for it. And you've lived up to what I was thinking.
Oh, grateful. Like, for me, that's the whole thing. Like, not just like what would we pay to get our ancestors' stories, like to be able to hear them, but also like Think about your grandchildren, great grandchildren. Let's say you never do another interview again. I know you will, because you're gonna be a big fashionista, you know.
Yeah.
But let's say you never did, like, you know what I mean? Then they at least have an hour and a half here and whatever other things you've done to come and listen to, you know, your thoughts, your journey, you know, the way you've seen the world, you know, how you got to where you were at this point and stuff like that. That's why, that's what I really want to do. And like I said, breaking down those superstar barriers and showing everybody is human and
getting rid of that stigma of people, you know, like on a platform or somehow like not gods, but they're objects, you know, and they're not objects. We've all got feelings, we've all got things we're going through, and you know.
Exactly. Hey, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for watching this full episode of Mind the Mic. It takes a lot of time, energy, and effort to create these episodes. So to know that you've watched and listened to the entire thing means the world to myself and all our hosts. If you could, before you leave, please hit the subscribe button and share this episode out to as many people as possible. It would help us so much. Thank you again to everybody that's still here, still watching. Thank you for all your comments, all your shares, all the DMs. Appreciate you all. Make sure you follow us on every platform. Have an awesome morning. Have an awesome night, depending on where you are in the world. Mind the mic out.
Oi, have you hit the link in bio yet?
Watch full episodes on YouTube or listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all streaming platforms.